because Pam is not feeling well. And in addition to being your host today, I'm also the timekeeper, so I got to watch myself. Make sure I... So anyway, to begin with, I want to welcome everyone here. We should have an interesting experience today. Hopefully, everything will run smoothly. I want to ask us now, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer, and we will begin. So, dear Father in heaven, we thank you for an opportunity to look into the things that you've shown to us in the subject of health and nutrition. And I ask that you would enlighten us today with your Spirit. Speak to our hearts. May we understand and may we desire to do that which would please you. Bless the folks in the kitchen and bless the food that's been prepared. May it nourish and strengthen us that we might please you when we leave here. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so today we're going to be talking about plant-based diet, all righty? And some people, when they hear the concept of plant-based diet, get real panicky, and they wonder, what am I going to eat? So we're going to take a little bit of the mystery out of that whole thing, so you won't have to worry about what you can eat if you want to go onto a plant-based diet. We have some things for you to check. For instance, we have this book here. This is a really nice book. This has been around for many decades. It's been updated at least once or twice. You can get this book at Secrets Unsealed, and there's the information over there on the board. This book has all sorts of amazing information. It gives you information on all different types of foods you can utilize if you want to go into a plant-based diet. You have, let's see, nutritional equivalents, what goes into what. If you're concerned about eating only plant-based diet and you want to get rid of things like animal products in your recipes, this book takes a lot of the mystery out of that. Let's see. Talks about minerals, what minerals do for us, how good they are.
What's the name of it?
The name of the book is 10 Talents. 10 Talents. If you are not sure what a fruit is, they have photographs of all the different types of fruits. So it takes all the mystery out of food preparation, let me tell you. You ever heard of a legume? There's a whole page. There's pictures. You can recognize them right off the bat when you see them in the store. So anyway, it's a wonderful book. It has been a blessing to many, many people for many, many years, and it is available at Secrets Unsealed. I'm going to ask Marina Clayton to come up, and she's going to introduce us to a number of other books as well. Why don't you stand right over there?
That's what I'm thinking. Hello, everyone. My name is Marina, and I work with health books, and as well, what David mentioned already, they teach people how to eat, what to eat, what not to eat. And the books I'm going to introduce, written by the same person. He is a doctor from Spain, but he is very, very, I met somebody who said very humble. He acknowledges God, and he puts together science with biblical diet in these books as well. Very interesting. So I have one book called Healthy Juices, and it has very simple recipes, very handy, practical recipes. Looks like this. I actually have a very strong voice. You can see that on this picture, it shows you juices. They are not regular juices we buy in the store. They're usually very rich, very thick. And if people they don't like breakfast, you can do that. If you don't like supper, you can do that. It's a smoothie type, very rich juicing. And he explains how to make your plant-based milks because he discovered 25 years ago that milk is not good for us anymore because of some cow milk, yeah. So he recommends plant-based milk. He recommends how to do any kind of option. You can make your own milk. And it's oatmeal, says cereal-based drinks or milks, plant-based milk, for example. He says soy milk, almond milk, oat milk, quinoa milk, so whatever. And I tried myself freshly made almond milk, totally different from what we buy in the store. So tender, it just has so very gentle, tender flavor to that. It's nothing like what we buy in the store. So that's why you can try to do that. But what I like about these books, any book, what I'm going to show very shortly, has this structure. It says, for example, drinks for every part of your body. So if you're focused on your eyes, if you're focused on your liver, respiratory, blood, whatever system, whatever organ you have, if you want to focus on that, he will give you this structure where you can go look up and find what you need. So this is on juicing. And we do have 2 books, medicinal plants. Many Native Americans love these books, and nutritionists. They're very thorough, and 2 volumes. They also have the structure, medicinal plants for every part of your body. They do have index of diseases in the beginning, where you can go look up and find for anything instead of medications. We know that, so natural is natural. Mm-hmm. And also we have index of plants, where you can look up, find the plant and see what it does for you. And it's a very, very many pictures that people can identify with pictures. Very structured, very easy to go, but it's also references to both books. So they're covered with pictures. And many people like that part because you can identify, you can find out these things very easily. So you can make your own medicine from just using this information. And the last book, I have, they have front cover is like this, but they have 3. And that's what can be confusing for people. Why 3? And these are foods. When we buy groceries, you can make, what I like about these books when I talk to people, work with people, you can make your own budget. Why? For example, the very first book calls, I open this page, Science of Foods. And that's what David already showed. You can go to any foods, fruits, nuts, whatever. You can, legumes, talking about legumes, you can find all scientific information. He put it together with a biblical diet. So it's partially from Bible and science, scientific research together. Second book, he will actually teach you how to reverse your problem. For example, high blood pressure. He is talking about how to, right here, high blood pressure. He'll give you a list of foods, what to eat, and list of foods, what not to stay away. And when I say this way, when people say that we're on budget, we're on fixed income people. So what you could do, either you can take picture of this, what to eat more, focus on, or you can write down the list of these foods. Go to grocery store and buy exactly what you need. This is how you can limit yourself or keep yourself away from junk food. And what not to eat, you can actually focus on that. And when people look at books and they say it's a lot of information, for specific disease, if it's liver or whatever disease you have to deal with, it takes only 10-15 minutes to read, memorize, because when you go back second time, it stays here. So it doesn't take as long. It's just for the whole family. And the last book is recipes, the same, so third book. And recipes exactly for every part of your body, vegetarian recipes separately. We do have even transition recipes, how to make transition from one to the other. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. So these are books that you're not going to sit and read like you would read a novel, but those are references that you can utilize as you're learning about different things. Yeah, so you can speak to Marina after we're finished with the program and get the information that she has for you. So, you're eating right now rice with peas and coconut, Indian style, beans and vegetables curry style. There's a quinoa salad, and there's an oats for breakfast and dessert. And we're going to be handing out a recipe grain cooking chart for everyone who's here today. We're not going to be doing a cooking demonstration today because the food you're eating is so simple, it really doesn't need a demonstration. So anyway, we're going to continue. Plant-based diet is food that you make, cook, prepare, and it's only based from plants, no animal products whatsoever. It's the diet that God gave to us when He created us. And if you go into your Bible, the very first chapter, you don't have to look too far, it tells us that God gave mankind the diet that is best, and it's plant-based. Now, when mankind sinned, he was going to be seriously weakened by sin. If you look in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, you find out that He's added something to our diet called vegetables and grains. And that's to give us more strength. After the flood, He allowed us to eat animals, but He also required that if we eat the animals, we're going to suffer. If you read the 9th chapter of Genesis, you will see where God says, if you eat those, especially if you eat it with blood in it, you're going to suffer for that. That's serious problems. So we want to avoid problems. We like to avoid problems. So we're going to try to stay away from the animal products. Let's see. We're going to be looking over the next few months about how to build a diet. And the first thing we're going to be looking at today is one part of it. It's going to be looking at grains. As the time goes by, we're going to be looking at building blocks. These are like grains as our first one. Legumes, which are high in protein and fiber. We're going to look at vegetables and fruits. I think we've all heard of those. And they're loaded with vitamins. Then we have nuts and seeds. Those are loaded with minerals and macronutrients. Healthy fats. Okay, some people think, oh, stay away from fats. You do need some fats. And fat-soluble nutrient and absorption. Egg substitutes. What do I do if I want to make something and it says eggs in the recipe? Well, we'll talk about egg substitutes later on as we go through the year. Food combinations. Sounds scary, but it's not. It's pretty simple. We want you to learn about flexibility and resilience. If you miss a meal, don't panic. You'll survive. You'll live. And then food preparation and menu planning. That'll be later on in the year as time goes. So there's lots of grains that you can check out. We're going to talk a little bit about grains today. My wife put together a bunch of grains for you to take a look at. And you can check them out later. Get a closer look at them so you can identify them when you go to the store. If they're not labeled, you'll know what they are. What's that? Yes. Go to the bulk aisle because that's where you can get the best prices. Let's see. So, the grains, you can do a lot of things with them. You can make them into flour, and then you can make bread with the flour. The best is if you grind up your grains right there and utilize them immediately. You can buy the grains you can buy flour at the store, but it's older and it's not as good. The fresher you make it, the better it is. The less refining that we do with the foods, the better it is for us. The less we mess around with something, the better it is for us. Okay? I like to tell people, leave it in the package that God put it in, and that will work the best for you. The more you change it, the worse it gets. So, cooking, oh, sorry. Some of these, okay, some people advocate a raw food diet. And I would agree, most people need to put more raw foods in the diet, but you can't eat everything raw. If you go and buy yourself a bag of rice and try to eat that raw, you're going to end up not feeling very good. This diet is not very good. My goodness, I feel terrible. So some things you definitely do have to cook, all right? And cooking grains is pretty easy. You can measure it out. If you have a cup of grains, usually it runs out to be about 2 cups of fluid. So 1 cup of grain, 2 cups. You won't be too far off. There's a chart. There's a chart, yes. There's a chart. So have no fear. Okay. Once you cook them, you can use them in a variety of dishes, like rice and beans. That's a combination everyone's familiar with, especially around here. Rice and curry, quinoa, like what you have on your plate. They can be savory, or they can be sweet. You have a lot of versatility with grains, okay? Let's see. Different seasonings, different sauces with fruits and vegetable combinations. You can make all sorts of different things, and it's wonderful. You can experiment with a lot of different things, and it's a wonderful thing. It's like Bob Ross, no mistakes, just happy accidents. Sorry. Anyway, so nutritional profile. I had a nutritional profile, which I'm not going to go into very great detail because we are just about out of time. Well, anyway, I don't seem to have it here. Anyway, grains are loaded with nutrients. They're loaded with fiber. They're loaded with lots of good things that we can utilize, and because God created us to utilize those things. All right? God knows what's best. He knows what we need the most, and He put those in the foods that He set out for us. Let's see. So at this point, I'm going to call Deborah, if she's going to come in and give us a demonstration on natural remedies, right? So. And if she's coming, okay, great. All right. So while Deborah's coming, one of the reasons why people like to go to a plant-based diet is because they don't want to cause cruelty to animals. And some people who are cynical will say, oh, cruelty to animals, huh? Well, what about the fruit? Aren't you being cruel to the fruit and the vegetables because you're eating those? And I say, I heard this once, I thought it was pretty good. When someone tells you you're causing pain to the plants because you're eating them, ask yourself this question: what is the purpose of the fruit? What is the purpose of the fruit? The fruit was designed by God to be able to provide nutrients for the next generation of plants. So the seed that's growing in that fruit is going to have some nutrition to be able to germinate and grow and become another plant. So the purpose of the fruit is to be consumed as a nutritional source. So if anyone tells you you're hurting that apple when you're eating it, just explain that to them. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me give you...
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone? Oh, hold on for a minute. Good evening, and I hope you're enjoying that meal. Is it good? Yeah? Good. Well, today we're going to do a real quick DIY. It's going to be really quick, but it's going to be nice. How many of you have cold hands and cold feet? Seem like all the time. Yeah? Not you, not men. No, just kidding. Yeah, I do too. It's like my feet are like ice, seriously. And so it's like, man, it's got to be something to warm your feet up at night, because my feet are so cold, and I can't sleep if my feet are cold. I have to get up and put on 2 pair of socks or whatever else. So we're going to do a quick DIY just to show you a simple essential treatment that you can do that's called like a salve. It's more of a salve or a cream to warm up your hands or warm up your feet, okay? So let's see if I can do this and hold this mic at the same time. So we have, right here we have coconut oil, a half a cup of coconut oil. And then we're going to use 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. So you know where that's coming from, right? That's the heat you're going to get. Okay, so we're going to add the cayenne pepper. And then we're going to add the beeswax. And here's my beeswax. Oh, actually, that's not my beeswax. Daniela, could you bring that beeswax in the microwave? That's what I'm missing. So we'll let her bring that for me. So we will have 4 tablespoons of beeswax. And then we're going to use that. What I just put in there was 1/4 cup of shea butter. Okay, that's what that was. And now shea butter. Did someone hear that? Shea? It's African. You can get it different brands, but this is an African shea butter. Okay, so you can get different brands. There are different brands out there. Okay, and so next we will have. I infuse my own peppercorn, or you can say black pepper, but I use the peppercorn, and you can infuse your own oil. And you can put it, infuse it and leave it under the chef for probably 3 to 6 months. And black pepper, no, it's in the microwave. Tell them look on the counter, it's got beeswax. Yeah, it's in a little cup, a glass cup. Anyway, black pepper is good for pain. You see in a lot of pain salves and different things, you have the black pepper because it helps to, it is still a stimulant like you have with cayenne. Cayenne is considered an irritant, but when you're using too much inwardly, but when you're using it externally, then it is good for the outside of the body. But of course, you don't want to burn the skin either, because this cayenne pepper can burn the skin. And that's why you're going to only use a small amount. So we added already, and now so I'm using the peppercorn that I had already infused, and that peppercorn was 1 teaspoon. Yes, she got it. Thank you so much. So this is the beeswax, and the beeswax was 4 tablespoons of beeswax where we ran out, so we're going to use what we do have. And normally you would use this on the stove so you can make sure all of this is melted together and continue to stir. Daniela, one last thing. In the refrigerator, bring the little bottle that has the little yellow cap that's completed. So anyway, it's going to chunk up a little right now because we don't have our stove here. But you would normally keep it on a low simmer until you get everything melted. And then you will pour it into one of your glass jars like this. Well, I'm going to add, in mine, I'm adding peppermint oil. And so we're going to use 10 drops of peppermint oil. If you're pregnant, this is not advised for you. I don't advise this for you. Peppermint oil is not good for pregnant women. What did you say? Or if you're allergic. Yes, if you're allergic to peppermint, of course. And so I'm using tea tree because tea tree is an antibacterial, antifungal. And just in case you're using this on your feet, it will help you. It's not going to hurt you. So you're using 6 drops. Okay? That was like, it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. Okay, and then we have lavender. We're going to use about 6 drops of lavender. Lavender is a relaxing oil. Thank you so much, Danielle. It's a relaxing oil, so especially if you're ready for bed, you want to relax. And so if this was on the stove, you just stir this well until you get everything melted. All of it will melt down, and then you would just pour it in whatever container you have. I'm just going to pour it right in this jar because we can warm it in the microwave, and somebody may get to take it home. So this was a real quick DIY, and now, and this is one I finished. And it's set up, and so you can just take your little on your hand. It's like a salve, and you just rub it on the feet. Rub it on your feet, add your socks, but of course, remember to wash your hands because this pepper, if you get it in your eye, you know it is cayenne, so it will burn. So any questions about it? Okay, well, enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deborah. That was wonderful. At this time, we are going to go into our next section of the program, and Dr. Krinstin Joe is going to present to us some information. She's going to be talking about numbers, mysterious numbers. Numbers that just puzzle us when we hear them. Oh. And the worst thing about it is the numbers, if you don't know what they mean, you can hear the numbers and not realize if it's bad news or if it's good news. So Krinstin is going to sweep away the mystery. And she will explain to us when you go see a doctor, what all those numbers actually do mean. Let's see. Okay.
Hello? Yeah, I think, well, that's
Okay.
live, very
Beautiful.
live. Hello? So just setting up the little presentation that I have. So just a little explanation of myself. My name is Krinstin Joe, a pharmacist. My background is I actually work in both a retail setting in Walmart Pharmacy, and I also work in a clinical setting in Adventist Health Central Valley Network in Hanford, Selma, Reedley, and Tulare now. So my background is mostly retail. I actually have 12 years of retail experience with Walmart Pharmacy now. Wow. And then 2 years of clinical with Adventist Health. So what are those numbers? So whenever you go to the doctor's office, sometimes you get that lab report. And sometimes you see it, and the doctor say, hey, you're high on this. You're high on your LDL. Oh, you're high on your blood pressure. Oh, I need to put you on meds. But you're not sure. You're seeing those numbers, and you're like, oh, I feel fine. Am I really needing some meds? So that's kind of the objective of tonight. Mostly I'm gearing towards the 3 disease states that are the highest risk of cardiovascular diseases in the United States, and we know that cardiovascular disease is one of the main causes of death in the United States, which we're going to be going over the hypertension, diabetes, and cholesterol. Also understanding those numbers of the lab values, what we say, as far as if you are really high or if you're normal, or is the doctor just messing with you, trying to give you meds, promoting the meds. And then also I do have some demonstrations on how do you actually test yourself at home to actually see if you are actually high in your blood pressure or high in your blood sugars. So those are the objectives for tonight. The scenario, what kind of triggered me to kind of go into this was I was actually working at one of the Walmart pharmacies, and it was late at night. It was ready to close. There was a young couple who actually came to our pharmacy with a bunch of prescription papers. He went to the ER, in the local ER, and he came back He went for one indication. He went because he had difficulties breathing, but then he came back with a whole new diagnostic that he was surprised about. We filled the prescriptions, and when I did the consultation, the face on that he showed was just disgruntled to me. I was like, this couple is even younger than I am. And they came back and they were like, I can't be this. I can't be a hypertension patient or a diabetic patient. I feel fine. I just went to the hospital because of my sore throat, my cough. How did I become a diabetic with all these medications all of a sudden? So that just really disgruntled me. This actually just happened just right before Christmas. And the family was just getting ready to just prepare for all the celebrations. And then he came back to the pharmacy with a whole bunch of new meds that he had no idea about. That just was the worst thing ever. So I do not want to see any of you guys going into my pharmacy like that. I really don't want to see any of you guys at my pharmacy at all because I don't want you guys on meds. But I mean, I just really don't like to see anybody suffering so much and just so surprised at like how they became. So let's talk about the numbers. First one, diabetes. Diabetes is a high prevalence in the United States, as we all know. Diabetic, there's many different types of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes that is autoimmune, type 2, which can be treatable, gestational, which happens during pregnancy, and also the maturity onset diabetes. So these are a lot of times the criterions that the doctors would go over, and generally we are looking for the hemoglobin A1C. That you have to get tested in the doctor's office. You can't test that at home with the blood sugar or glucose meters. The A1C actually is related to your hemoglobin, and that kind of rejuvenates itself in 3 months. And that you do have to go to your doctor to see what your hemoglobin is to know if you actually are diabetic or not. The threshold, if you're more than 6.5% of A1C, that's not good. You're getting up there in those values. And your fasting glucose level, you want to have less than 126 in your levels, and that's considering when you're having 8 hours of fasting. So you're pretty much, when you're absolutely fasting, if your levels are higher than 126, you're getting up to that range of being considered diabetic. The same with the 2-hour glucose test. That's for more when you're pregnant. You have the test, the OGTT, oral glucose tolerance test. When you're pregnant, that's the results for women. So men, you're out of that. But the random glucose, it's also the same value. If you're more than 200 milligrams per deciliter, you're considering getting to the category of being diabetic. Now, it's not just a one-time ordeal. A lot of times it would be tested at least twice, and if you have the results twice or more, then you would probably be diagnosed as being diabetic. And also, if you also have signs of hyperglycemia symptoms like sweating, high palpitations, high heart rate, feeling jitteriness, if you're feeling any of those symptoms, you can also get diagnosed as possibly being diabetic. So these are kind of the lab values, those numbers that we're mentioning to kind of watch out for when you see the big lab results and paper from the doctor's office and everything. This, it really doesn't really matter. I'm just showing it how difficult and how stringent it can be to actually like treat patients with high diabetes. These are all the different class of medications that doctors would go straight into if you are diabetic. A lot of times it's monotherapy with the metformin, and then after that, depending on your levels, you get more and more complex and more medications, and then possibly even insulin. Insulin, a lot of times it's very difficult for patients because, of course, you have to poke yourself at different locations. You don't want to do that. You can cause a lot of complications, even worse, infections, even get worse with, even more pain. So this really is just kind of showing how complex it is if you are considered diabetic and what practitioners kind of go through for that. So demonstration, I have to make sure I take this back. These are actually my parents. But when you are testing, you do have to make sure that you have a meter. And you also have to have a test strips along with it, also the lancing device and the lancets. I was going to demonstrate in front of you, but actually, since we have food around, it's actually not OSHA good. So I'm going to keep that maintained. But the main thing is definitely if you're having any symptoms or if you have any family history of having diabetes, or if you feel like that you have like a high blood sugar, I do recommend testing yourself, not necessarily going to the doctor, getting tested there, but I mean, if you have a history, especially if you have a family history, immediate family history, I would recommend testing yourself just to make sure that you're not getting diabetic. And since it is a new year, we all want to be healthy and we want to make sure that we are in the greatest health as possible. So just to make sure that you're not having to be getting medications for it. The main thing about the diabetics testing, you want to get the right sample of blood. So a lot of times when patients use it, they come back to me and they're like, I'm not getting a reading on my diabetic supplies or my testing kit. And most of the time, this lancing device, it has different ranges on there, which the higher the number you go, the deeper it goes into it, and the more painful it will be, but it is a more sufficient blood. So you're kind of playing with yourself as far as how deep you can go in order to get the right number without causing so much pain. So depending on your testing device, they do have different sites that you can test. It does not always have to be your fingertips, which can be painful. There can be the palm of your hands. It can be also the arms, the forearm that you have. Also, there is a new product called the Freestyle Libre, which actually is a patch that you put onto your forearm. You leave it there. It does have a needle there, but instead of poking yourself all the time, you'll have that patch there, and you have a monitor that you read. So instead of poking yourself, you have that. That's another alternative that they have. It's kind of newer, so I haven't heard results or any studies as far as the difference between the actual pricking yourself and that device. But that is a good alternative if you don't want to prick yourself too. There's also another alternative to check your blood sugars of actual your breath. So it actually measures your breath to show how much glucose your levels are too. I forgot the name of that brand, but that's another alternative too. Like I said, I don't know how it compares to the actual traditional way of testing your diabetic supply or levels, but that could be the thing. Any questions on that? That was kind of a quick little demonstration. There are different kits. Working at Walmart, I'm sorry, I had to advertise, but we do have a cheap kind of diabetic kit that is no more than like $50 for the entire kit. The cost of this can be kind of high, but definitely I do recommend to check your glucose, especially if you have a history of it. Moving forward, for hypertension, high blood pressure, another high risk of the cardiovascular disease risk. The lab numbers for these, this is the guideline that practitioners use. It's called JNC7. So this is the most recent guidelines that they have. They're saying that your systolic blood pressure, if it's less than 120, and your diastolic blood pressure, if it's less than 80, then you're normal. And then pretty much you see the range. Pretty much with this guideline, doctors can start prescribing medications in this level, in pre-hypertension levels. Depending on the practitioner, depending on how risky they want to be and how the patients are, depending on a lot of different factors, I've seen doctors actually prescribe medications here. And of course, if we don't want to be on medications, I don't want you guys to be on medications, then we're wanting to make sure that we're kind of monitoring ourselves for that. Of course, if you're higher than 160, if you're up to like 180, 200, that's hypertension crisis, that's emergency. That's when you're going to the ER and you're getting all these blood pressure lowering medications full blast. I've seen some patients who came to the retail at Walmart having those readings, and I'm like, they're asking, what can I do to lower it? Hospital, right away, hospital. And I mean, that's just the unfortunate thing. So again, like a big, complex way of how to treat patients with hypertension. Very complex, and it can get very tedious, and especially when you're trying to make sure that the patients are taking the right meds, not getting overdosed, then it could be very complicated that way. Nothing to really know about. I'm just kind of showing and kind of proving that we actually do some work in the pharmacy to make sure that you guys are safe whenever you guys have any prescriptions going on. Demonstration. So whenever you have a blood pressure monitor, I do recommend, especially if you don't have a history or background of actual medical, to do an automatic blood pressure machine. These comes very handy because literally you don't really have to know how to use a blood pressure monitor. You just pretty much put it around your arm and go from there. There are two different types of blood pressure monitors. There's ones that go around the wrist, and there's one that goes around the arm. I always recommend going around the arm because that's the most accurate. That's actually on the left arm too, because your heart is on the left side. And if you have it on the wrist, so much more further from your heart that you're measuring compared to your arm measuring up here. So I do recommend the one that goes over the arm. When you do use it, you do want to make sure to sit down flat. And you want to make sure that you have your feet planted, kind of laying down flat and kind of relaxing as much as possible. When you put the wrap around your arm, ideally you don't want to have any type of clothing around it either. So even if it's like a thin kind of shirt like this, I always still recommend kind of rolling it up so that it's purely your skin. And then you want to make sure this cord is pretty much straight. No kinks, no twists, nothing like that. And then here, you want to just wrap it around. Not too tight that it makes it too tight that you can't breathe your arm, but enough that it kind of stays there and it's pretty much straight. As far as the monitor, depending on the patient, I usually tend to have it the other way because you want to relax as much as possible. If you see your monitor and you're seeing that it's going higher and higher, you might be starting to react that way. So I try to tend to have it the other way. And with the automatic one, you just pretty much press a button and let it do its thing. And it's going. And pretty much it does that until it kind of squeezes that way, and then it has that reading. You should be kind of relaxed. I should not even be talking. But the main thing is to relax when you use it and then go from there.
How come the doctors are putting those on and they're making them so tight that it hurts?
Sometimes, if they're doing the manual one, sometimes in order to use it, you have to hear it. So that's why, like, the technique of actually the manual one, it's kind of more difficult if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah. The manual and the automatic ones, they both. It's like, what are you trying to do to me? You know?
Sometimes the automatic one, sometimes you can't really help it. This one actually went pretty far up too. Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy.
Actually. I know, it's actually not that high, but at the same time, I mean, with the automatic one, you can't really gauge it. It just kind of gears it, and it kind of goes until it kind of goes.
Well, I can remember back 20 years ago and having blood pressure tests, and they never hurt. And now, when I go to the doctor, and they randomly always check your blood, they pump it up, or they automatically squeeze to the point where I'm going, look, this hurts.
Yeah.
Stop.
To be honest too, it can also depend on the person. I mean, because like really, like they do have to pump it up until they hear something, and they have to hear two different sounds. So sometimes they do mess up, sometimes they can't hear it, so they keep squeezing it and squeezing it.
No, the automatic ones are the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They throw you on an automatic machine and tightens up so tight.
Yeah.
My hands turn white.
Yeah. Sometimes,
Or red, or
I mean, it depends. And then also too, like, and then sometimes too, like the automatic ones, it's so short. I mean, this one was kind of pumping a lot, but like it's so short that it almost, you just kind of have to let it go
I've
and
had
everything.
it where my hands were purple.
Oh, that's not good. Then yeah, you might have to see about like changing your machine or something,
Change doctors.
or doctors. Sorry, David.
Did you have it set so that it would go over the artery?
Yeah. So mainly like you do want to make sure to like have it like over the arteries too, like the cord. So that's the thing too. Generally, my reading is not that high. Generally, mine is actually between 110s and 90s, but now it's pretty high. I know. I think that might be it. It's all you guys now. I'll blame it on you guys. Yeah, Pastor?
Aren't you supposed to have your hand about, straight out in front of you rather than hanging down like on a table or on a chair or something?
It doesn't really matter. I've seen kind of both, that like they would have it extended. I also seen some people actually clench their arm, which I don't really agree with that. But either that or down, I've seen kind of both. So it doesn't really matter as far as that. As long as you're pretty much relaxed, that's kind of the main thing. Yeah, and then also like on top of the blood pressure monitor, I mean, I also have a Fitbit that it's good to kind of monitor your pulse. Generally, like I kind of monitor my own pulse because at work sometimes I get super stressed that I'm checking myself and then my pulse is high. So that's kind of my own way of kind of gauging myself that, hey, I need to relax, I need to chill, I need to lay off the coffee, which is a caveat on mine. I'm working on that this year, by the way, which I'm proud of. But yeah, so you kind of gauge yourself. You're also your best historian too. So you kind of know how your body is, your baseline is. So you kind of gauge like, oh, I'm feeling stressed. Oh, I better relax. Oh, like I'm needing food. I'm getting hypoglycemic. Oh, I need to get something right now. So you're your best historian, your best doctor. Not to negate what doctors are doing, but I mean, doctors aren't always there with you, so they don't know everything about you. So yes, for sure.
Thank God they're not always with me.
Yeah, exactly, for mine too. So that's kind of the blood pressure demonstration. Any questions about that one? Uh-huh.
I'm wondering on blood pressure, if you could do 116 you start out with, and then you eat or go and run and exercise and all that, and then you're 130, or you go up to 147, and then later you're down to 120 again. What are the levels of going up and down during the day, depending on what you're eating or your stress level?
And it depends on the person. So there's not really a specific range that you have to be. Like you can't say that I exercise this amount of time and, oh, I can only be like 140 over 90 or whatever. Like you can't really gauge that. The levels that like I showed, these are mostly for resting blood pressure, like pretty much this. So if you're exercising, depending on how strenuous the exercise is, if you're also too, depending on how your condition is, if you're feeling, even if you're feeling ill, if you have a fever, sometimes that does raise your blood pressure. So different conditions can change your blood pressure. But if your baseline, if your basal level is pretty much whatever range, like I was saying that mine is usually 110s over 70s. That's usually mine. Then you can kind of gauge your way on that. Just kind of know your baseline. And that's kind of the way to go. Yeah, pretty much it. Uh-huh.
What's the best time of day or night to check your blood pressure? Is there a routine? If you're tracking it or looking for a trend, is there a particular time of day that's better than another?
I've heard in the morning is pretty stable. But, I mean, you can always check your blood pressure during the day. It's also good to notate it, to kind of document like what you did at this time, at this moment, when you tested your blood pressure or your blood sugar, and kind of journal it so that you can also know that way. But generally, like the mornings is a good time to kind of check like your blood pressure, your blood sugar, pretty much in general.
Don't most heart attacks happen in the morning also?
I'm not sure about that. I think I heard at night,
Midday.
or maybe I'm not sure about that. I would have to get back to you on that result. But yeah, but yeah.
Heart attacks, a lot of times they happen very early in the morning, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Because after all that fatty food,
It accumulates.
into the stomach, and
Yeah.
gets into the bloodstream, and just clogs up the arteries,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and you're sleeping away, and then you don't wake up.
Makes sense, very much so.
Yes. What's the relationship between your pulse rate and your blood pressure? Because obviously that's going to vary. What,
So like your pulse rate is kind of like the minimum amount to get blood throughout your whole body. Your blood pressure is kind of like the pressure of like your arteries to everywhere else. So like your blood pressure can be dependent on like your volume, like your viscosity of your blood, how thick it is. It could be like depending on your tubes, like your arteries. If there's any atherosclerosis, any clotting, any fats that are accumulating there, that can affect your blood pressure. So in relationship, I mean, your pulse is kind of like the amount that your blood is kind of getting pumped, like your heart is pumping. But your blood pressure is kind of the one that like how much your actual pressure is to do that.
but is there any kind of a direct relationship between the numbers? In other words, high pulse rate related to high blood pressure, or low pulse rate related to low blood pressure, or the opposite? Or
I mean, they have
is there any kind of numerical relationship?
They have some relationship, but really, like, I didn't look into it too much to actually know exactly how much of a relationship it is. There is some correlation, but I mean, generally, like, people can have low pulse rates when they're kind of more, taking medications like a beta blocker to kind of lower the pulse rate. But generally, it does kind of correlate with each other. Like the higher the pulse rate, I wouldn't really say that you have high blood pressure with high pulse rate.
Okay. Then what is the range of pulse rates in a room full of people like this? You're going to have a range. Some people, like her, it's going to be very low, and other people, like myself, it's going to be higher. So can you talk about the range of pulse rates in a normal setting?
Generally, like general population is probably between 60 to 100. That's like the general population of like the pulse rate, like 60 to 100.
Oh, that's quite a broad range.
Yeah, because it depends on the person. But generally, that's like kind of like the general range of the pulse that like we consider kind of normal. But at the same time, like athletes, sometimes they can be like a pulse rate of 40 and that's their normal. Well, I mean, they could be sometimes like 90 or so, and that's kind of their normal or so.
So if my wife's pulse rate is, just use an example, let's say she's 65, and I check mine at the same time and the same circumstance, but mine's 85, then I'm within that acceptable range?
Yeah, generally. Generally, like the pulse range of like 60 to 100 is okay. If you're going up to like 110, 120, that is getting high. But yeah.
You mentioned viscosity,
Uh-huh.
so like if they don't drink enough water and their blood is thicker because it's not as much water, can that make it be a higher or lower?
Actually, like drinking more water actually makes it thicker. So yeah. So like actually like sometimes if you have
The volume, right?
like the thickness of it too and the volume. So like sometimes like drinking more water can actually be thicker. So it could not really be bad that like it's getting high blood pressure, but sometimes too, like if you have too much salt, and actually salt, when you have salt, water follows wherever salt goes. So that's when the viscosity kind of increases, and that's how salt can increase the blood pressure type
You're
of thing.
saying that water makes blood thicker? I was just at the doctor's office and she said I needed to drink water. I had actually realized and seen that I had quit drinking water. She said your blood is too thick and you're in danger of getting blood clots. So you're saying that water causes the blood to thicken? No, water causes the blood to thin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really saying thicken. I mean, water is a good thing to do. Water is a good thing to drink because we do need water to like survive. But the thing is that you have too much water. And sometimes if you have too much salt, then salt a lot of times is a caveat to increase the blood pressure. And where salt is, your body naturally gets the water there.
Too much water has to be bad for you, just like too little water has to be bad for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like
Somebody was saying the other day at work that you needed to drink 64 ounces of water, and I disagreed. That's way too much water for the body to handle in one day.
yeah, I mean, like that's a good amount.
Think about water. Everybody drink water. Drink this much water, you know, and it's so much hocus pocus.
I mean, water is good. I mean, definitely everybody needs water, and like a sufficient amount of water is good.
You know what? I want to tell you something. I got a new cell phone, and I didn't know how to operate it, and I didn't realize I had turned on the flashlight.
Huh?
And I had my finger on the photo cell, my finger here on the photo cell, and I have an earache tonight. I had a terrible earache last night, and my fingernail hurt underneath my fingernail. It was stinging from the flashlight, from the intensity of the
light, the heat.
And the heat from the phone gave me an earache.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, watch those flashlights on those phones.
Yeah, that can be a problem. Okay.
One more question
Yeah.
about pulse.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're taking your pulse, you're
Uh-huh.
manually taking your pulse,
Uh-huh.
and you're counting it to get the beats per minute, and you notice that every once in a while it skips a beat.
Oh.
Is that a problem?
That might be something to kind of look with the doctor about, because if it skips a beat, it might be something more about the heart. Like it might be like an arrhythmia that might be going on or something. But yeah, if it skips a beat, then you might have to talk to your doctor about that, just to monitor your heart, making sure that it's good. So type of thing. Depends. I wouldn't say that it would fix it entirely, but it depends.
Don't some people, like myself, have kind of an irregular heartbeat?
Yeah.
I've had it one all my life.
Yeah.
Irregular.
Yeah.
And I'm not at any threat, I'm not at any danger
Yeah.
of it.
It is. I mean, like sometimes irregular heartbeat can happen too, but I mean, it's not always the case. Sometimes irregular heartbeat can actually be a bad thing. I mean, if you have an irregular heartbeat, that's not indicative that you're in a problem or so.
I'm in the same boat.
Uh huh. Huh? I'm sorry.
What's too low?
What's too low as far as like low blood pressure? I mean, it depends. I mean, like, if your normal is like 110 over 80, like mine, I mean, if you're going down to like 90 over 60, or like, I mean, going lower like that, then that's going low blood pressure for me. And then, like, a lot of times, 78 over 69, that could be low. It depends on your baseline. It depends on what you're.
I don't know what it is, but I know once it got that low and they couldn't find the pulse.
Oh, yeah.
That's why
Yeah, then.
do a physical so they can establish a baseline.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to say, like over like with these tests, you can definitely test yourself too. Or even like at retail at Walmart, like we have a machine right by our pharmacy that like you can test your blood pressure right there and get your baseline that way. At least something that you know how to gauge yourself and when and how much to gauge yourself with, to know if you're doing good or not, or you need to get tested, or you need to be seen. That's kind of the main thing, to know your own baseline and kind of know where to go off of that.
Know your numbers.
Yes, know your numbers. All right, so moving forward, the last one is the cholesterol. So this is the third arm of like the cardiovascular risk that can happen and lead the most leading cause of death in the United States. So this is one of the biggest things that doctors are looking for too. And these are the numbers for them. TC is the total cholesterol in your body. That's including like pretty much the combination LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. Total cholesterol, you want to be less than 200. The LDL, ideally, you want to be less than 100. HDL is actually your good lipoprotein, your good cholesterol. That one, the higher the number is actually better. That's the one that you do want to get a higher number with. And your triglycerides, you want to be less than 150. Each of these categories, it's pretty much saying your dyslipidemia if you're off by any one of them. And a lot of times, if you are off of one of them, you do get medications from them, a lot of times straight away.
How long does it take if you're taking a statin like Lipitor for it to take your cholesterol down?
Oh, it depends. I mean, the statin class is like the number one drug that pretty much the doctors has to go to. That's with the guidelines. They're saying that if your LDL levels are too high, that's the number one class to go to. But it depends on the patient and how high it is.
My LDL is 270.
Okay.
270, I don't even see 270, I see 240 on total cholesterol. My LDL is 270.
Okay. Yeah, that is
So
high.
they've given me finally, one health insurance wouldn't take care of it, Anthem wouldn't take care of it, but Calviva covers the, what is it called again, the statin drug.
Like the Lipitor.
Yeah, so I'm taking it now, so I'm curious, how long is it gonna take before my cholesterol begins to drop down?
I mean, you should see some results at least probably within like the first couple of months or so. But also on top of this, my caveat, and also like the guidelines too, they do recommend lifestyle changes, like a lot of diet changes, a lot of exercise on top of it.
One of them is 270.
Yeah, yeah. So like, so definitely these are good indicators and good numbers to kind of know your values, to kind of gear yourself to. But as far as exact numbers of how long it'll take to bring it down, then it all depends. I can't really say it'll take some on an individual. A lot of these, many things, it depends on the individuals as far as like how well a medication is. Lipitor to you might not work for me, if or whatnot, or one to the other.
So there are several different statin drugs to lower cholesterol.
There's a lot of not only statins but triglyceride lowering medication. Statins is just mostly doing the LDL mostly.
When is the triglycerides? Because my triglycerides are high also. Is TG
Yeah.
triglycerides?
Yeah, triglycerides is this.
TG.
And then if you're ever at like 500 of triglycerides, then that is also the emergency, that when the doctor really has to hit hard on bringing down your cholesterol. Mostly cholesterol, the biggest thing that you're worried about is that it accumulates in the vessels. And of course, if that accumulates, that causes atherosclerosis, which leads up to the high blood pressure. So a lot of these are actually indicated and related to each other, and that's what you're trying to prevent. Any kind of cardiovascular disease on this.
High blood pressure would happen because your blood doesn't have the same amount of room. It's pressed through, as it's pressing through your blood vessels.
Yeah,
If it's gonna cause
if it's
it to
related
go
to that.
higher,
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it's related a lot of times.
Yeah.
How important is it to identify trends over a period of years? Does a trend, for example, on your total cholesterol, if over a 10-year period, your total cholesterol number remains essentially the same, does that mean anything compared to, say, it was trending upwards or trending downwards? Are trends important at all?
Trends can be important. I mean, like sometimes if you have too much cholesterol, that's just in your blood, you have cholesterol. That's like the amount in and milligrams per deciliter in your blood, that's, if you have like 200 in that little canister, that means in your whole body you have potentially like 200 or more kind of all over your body, and that has potential of accumulating. So that's what they're trying to prevent, is that these numbers, you're talking about your blood. That's what they're testing in. So if you have too much, let's say of like 240, and it's consistently that, then consistently you have the risk of having accumulation of those 240 somewhere in your body, which could be in your head and for a stroke, it could be in your legs for a DVT, it could be in different places, in your eyes or whatnot. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that these numbers and values and glucose and blood pressure, that's kind of what they're trying to prevent. So, because you have too much of whatever in that amount in your body.
High cholesterol caused from Nutella, hazelnut spread, chocolate hazelnut spread. Isn't cholesterol from nuts actually good for you?
It is, I agree. There are good cholesterol.
I'm pretty sure that's where my high cholesterol came from.
There are good cholesterol. There are definitely bad cholesterols. And cholesterol is not necessarily bad to have in your body. Actually, if you don't have cholesterol, that can prevent different things in your body to grow. There's actually one study that is starting to form about statins, potentially, possibly causing Alzheimer's relations. So because you need cholesterol in your mind and your brain to accumulate and to maintain your brain levels. So they're starting to see potential of having the statins possibly maybe causing Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, okay.
But it's not really, well, don't just drop it because, I mean, like there's studies that might be related to that, but I mean, that's a caveat about medications. I mean, even recently, Zantac got recently recalled because, I mean, it has a potential of causing cancer.
Zantac?
Zantac, ranitidine, and that's an acid reducer medication. So, I mean, that's the caveat of many medications. That's why I don't personally like to take medications. I actually don't take any medications myself.
Well, I think the cholesterol also can have gotten to the level that it is from eating turkey at Christmas and Thanksgiving. 'Cause
Could be
that
different
has-
things.
Yeah.
Could be
that has
different
a lot
things.
I think has a lot of cholesterol.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, without using a prescription drug,
Uh-huh.
what is the easiest or best way to reduce your cholesterol numbers through diet and exercise?
You really can.
I mean, you could. I mean, like generally, like any type of aerobic exercise, any type of walking, like brisk walk for like 15 minutes in a day, anything to get your body moving. As far as food, I would have to refer you to a nutritionist. That's their specialty. I'm not too knowledgeable about which specific foods can lower whatever. Or even the book that Mariana has, that would be very helpful right there. But definitely, like lifestyle changes, exercise is definitely a good caveat to bring down glucose, cholesterol, blood pressure.
So what about diet?
Yeah, diet. Yeah, that's the book. Like refer to Mariana's book because that's a nutritionist specialty. I'm not too sure about that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I heard, I read also that the bad cholesterol are only meat and dairy product. There is no bad cholesterol in the plant-based food. My mom is a big vegan. She had a stroke because she didn't drink enough water. But because they told me give it thickening, she cannot swallow. Because of thickening, I added to the water. I told doctor she is not getting enough water. They didn't tell anything. So she got a stroke. Now I give her water. And not only that, she never had high cholesterol because she was on vegan diet. Plants don't have bad cholesterol, only good cholesterol in the plant-based diet. But in the meat and the dairy products, LDL cholesterol is high.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing is that sometimes your doctor has like a 10-year risk, CVD risks. That's kind of related to their Framingham risk score. There's actually a website that you can go to. If you Google Framingham risk score, you can actually calculate your own risks. And that's pretty much just like a method that they kind of saw what is your percentage of getting CVD, cardiovascular disease, in the next 10 years. What's your probability of that? So, I mean, it's a good tool to use. Go Google Framingham risk score. This is one of the links I had found for that, to do that. As a demonstration, I don't have the machine. I was going to bring it, but my manager had to use it for this weekend, so I couldn't bring it. But you do have to have a certified CLIA-approved personnel to be able to test your cholesterol. So you can't, there's no cholesterol testing at home that you can do. But at your workplace, a lot of times they have like a health screening thing that happen. Walmart, we actually have a weekend this Saturday that they have like a wellness day that they always test the glucose, blood pressure, and cholesterol for patients for free. So yeah, the caveat is that it's on Sabbath, but they do have that offered every quarter at Walmart.
I get this thing in the mail, and it says, for $195, come to our church, and we'll check your cholesterol throughout your body. How are they able to look into the veins?
That machine does it. That's the thing that they would have to, but it has to be the approved thing. So I mean, yeah, that could be an option to go to. But yeah, they would have to have that machine in order to test it. So in conclusion, pretty much it's a new year. We want to make sure that we're very healthy, and we want to make sure that we have the right fitness. So this quote, it says, "Fitness starts in your head. You must choose to eat clean, exercise regularly, and treat your body with respect." You have to know your own body and know how to treat it well. And of course, like, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains my strength of my heart. He is mine forever. And that's really something to just hold on to. Just know that even though sometimes your health is so difficult to maintain, but God is always there to kind of ensure that you're there and prevailing through it all. So that's pretty much it. Any other questions? I think that was all right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Krinstin. That was really good.
Oh, thanks.
The nice thing is that most of these diseases, high blood pressure, high level cholesterol, and diabetes, these are lifestyle, really. They're lifestyle diseases, and we can change that with good choices. One of the things that grains are very good for, since they have high fiber content. Fiber is what helps move excess cholesterol out of your body. So eat a lot of fiber, and that helps to lower your cholesterol level. Let's see. We're going to be, okay, let me make a couple of announcements here. Next month, February, we're going to go back to the first Thursday of the month. This was just a change because of New Year's. New Year's seems to happen at the beginning of every year, and that got us kind of messed up. No one was going to come here on the 2nd of the year. So, but anyway, back first Thursday will be next month, and back to normal. If you want to see this presentation again or share it with others, or if you want to see past ones or look for the recipes, you can find them on our church website, FresnoCentralSDA.org, or if you do .com, you'll end up in the same place. Both of those work. Yeah.
Time on the meeting in February, 6 or 6:15?
I think it's 6:15. I have to ask the boss, my wife. She knows, but I think it's 6:15. So we're gonna. What's that? Yeah, we start serving at 6:15. I want to invite Pastor Jensen up. He's going to make a quick announcement.
Thank you, David. Coming up towards the end of this month, we have a really unique opportunity to share with you. The international radio program, The Voice of Prophecy, with Sean Boonstra and myself are going to be presenting a 4-evening seminar called The Final Empire, which will talk about the history and the formation of the United States, the events that led to the founding of the United States of America, God's hand in that, and what the future holds for America. You know, with the presidential elections coming up this year, many people, as they're looking at all the vitriol and the hatred and the violence that's taking place in America, wonder what's going to happen next in this country. Well, the Bible has answers to that. It's going to be starting on Thursday night, January 23 at 7 o'clock right here in this conference center, and it's going to be 4 consecutive nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, January 23 to 26 at 7 o'clock. The first half hour, it's only going to be an hour. The first half hour will be a video presentation by Sean Boonstra, the speaker of the Voice of Prophecy. In the second half hour, I will be going over with you a study guide that will review the material that you saw in the video and looking up some Bible texts that substantiate what he says. So I'm going to pass out these cards, and you're welcome to come and invite your friends. Thank you.
Okay, folks, before we have the raffle, I'm going to give a pop quiz. You ready? You got your brain engaged? How much fiber is in a fried chicken leg? 0, exactly. Very good. Some of you have been studying. All right. Next month, February, we're going to have as our featured speaker Ted Jeske, and he's going to talk to us about how he lost some substantial weight. It should be very interesting. So make sure you're here next month. And I want to thank Krinstin. Great job. I want to thank Deborah for her natural remedies. And I think Deborah's going to come up here and assist with the raffle. We're going to be giving away 6 things of food. And from what I'm understanding, it would not be a good thing to tip them over on your way home. So, okay.
Okay, let's get out our tickets. The last 3 numbers are 174, 174. How about 156? Wow. Okay, come on up.
And just in case you want to know, this is the salve that we made. So I just put enough so someone can have some.
Okay, 170, 175, 163.
Where's the prize?
Right here. Anything that you want.
Come on up. It's good exercise.
157. 164. Anything that you like right there. 181. 186. 177. Okay. Right here. Okay. How about 179? Right there. Okay. 173. 166. Okay. Right here. 185. Oh, okay. Okay. 183. Not that I know. No. Okay. 178. Okay. Let's go for 174. Okay. 171. 182. 176. Okay. 172. Okay. 169. 161. Okay, come. Okay, I think we're gonna stop because I think I see two more.
72?
Uh-huh.
Hold on. Daniela.
Daniela? Okay, yes.
Or if you wanted to, we have any more plates? We'll bring 2 more plates if you'd rather have a plate.
Would you rather have food or would you rather have?
We can bring 2 more plates if you'd rather.
Okay. That's fine.
I'd rather have a plate if she has.
Yeah, she's gonna bring.
Okay. All right, then let's go with 184. Let's go. No, we just have Doreen and, so, okay. I know. Okay.
Would you like a plate
Or the natural remedy.
dessert or rice?
How does
Don't
it
let it
taste?
kill. Don't let it kill. Don't get it in your eyes.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Oh, but what about this one?
Deborah,
Deborah, we have one more? Oh,
the salve. Okay.
okay, we have one more. Let's go for 160. Okay. Then let's go for 159. Okay, there we go.
We have a winner.
I'll come back up when she
Okay. Okay. So, God designed the blood pressure to be able to go up when it needed to go up and to go down when it's supposed to go down. So when you're standing up in front of a bunch of people, it should go up. And when you go home and everything's done, it should go down. Then you see your doctor. Yeah. So anyway, I think we're about done. So why don't we bow our heads? We'll have a closing prayer, and everyone can scurry home. All righty? Let's bow our heads. Dear Father in heaven, again, we thank you for this opportunity to see how the wonderful machine that you've given to us, our body, works, and it works according to rules and works according to the principles that you've laid down. And we know that as we cooperate with those rules and principles, that we will benefit. And in addition to our own selves benefiting, we can share those things with others and help them as well. Bless us now, we pray in Jesus' name, amen. So if you want to see those books, go over and